Okay, so we're going to have a look at 4 different examples of conclusions and we're going to analyse each one. So let's look at the first one. There's, in conclusion, the short-term significance of the Oregon Trail and the northward expansion is the vast yet short-lived flock of people moving west and setting up a new life. It says overall each of these short-term factors somehow advanced into a long-term advantage. So I've highlighted where you can see that they're making a judgment. Then he goes on to say, in my view, the significance of the Oregon Trail and the northward expansion was the role it played in making America the country it is today. See that they're making a judgment. There's, after looking at all the sources and factors, it's hard to choose the most important one, as each affects a different in the country and its infrastructure. However, if you were to pick out one, it would probably be the social factor, because this was the factor that could be linked to all others through the people of the country and therefore had the most effect. Now, this is a very basic conclusion, and although they're making a judgment in saying it was the role that it played in America, they are making the judgment, and they are making reference to the sources. They're not specific enough. We don't see specific sources, and just says all sources. Another thing to be aware of, that they make the judgment that it's the social factor and says it can be linked, but it doesn't say how it can be linked. So effectively, it's a very, very basic conclusion. Right. Okay, let's have a look at conclusion 2 now. In terms of this next one, it's slightly better than the last, but I still think there's a lot of room for improvement. This one starts off by saying, in conclusion, the most important factor as a result of the Oregon Trail was political change in America. So again, they're making the judgment straight away. It says, in the short term, it can be argued that the Oregon Trail was the start of conflict between free and slave states in America. Now, it's well focused on the question it's talking about in the short term, so they're there with it, and you can see I've highlighted where they've referenced the sources. So usually the references are at the bottom of the page, so you can see that footnoting really is needed to show the examiner where you are using the sources specifically. But let's look how he uses them. So it goes on to say, ultimately leading to the Civil War. It says American legislation was also greatly affected by expansion and the migration of people westward. So they're making a judgment again. It says the Oregon Trail leads directly to the Indian Removal Act in 1830. And again, you can see that they have referenced the source, but they've not really done much with the source. They've just sort of said that, linked it together. And again, with the Homestead Act of 1862, you can see that they've referenced again. There's, through the legislation, it is clear in the short term politics was used to reinforce and establish the idea of manifest destiny and allow Americans the legal right to occupy that land that was originally not theirs. You can see that this is his judgment. He's saying that politics is the most significant. In the long term, the effect of this was greatly important, effectively forcing Native Americans from their land and destroying their way of life. The political implications of the Oregon Trail undoubtedly have shaped America into the country it is today, with clear links between the short-term effects and long-term impact. So again, although they talk about the context, I don't really think that they've ranked it against any other factors. They've not added any of the other factors that they've talked about, but they have made a final judgment. So again, slightly better. Okay, conclusion 3, again, is even better still. Starts off by saying, in conclusion, the evidence shows the political aspects of the Oregon Trail and the northward expansion to be more prominent in its significance. This can be seen by acts such as the Indian Removal Act and the annexation of Texas, having not only a short-term political impact but social significance as well. So they're making the judgment, focusing on the political aspect. You've got, it's evidenced by examples of sources, so it's supported thoroughly with the Indian Removal Act and the annexation of Texas, and the analysis is there linking back to the question, saying it's not only the short-term political but social significance as well. So she's linking different factors. Again, you can see that there are footnotes to references which are at the bottom of the page. Going on, it says it also could be argued that the Indian Removal Act had a significance environmentally, as in removing the native tribes from their lands opened up more opportunities for white Americans to settle and develop towns, which was part of Jackson's urban vision of urbanisation. So again, it's supported by the evidence. She's given examples, and there's clear reference and links to sources that she's footnoting. Going on, she says environmental factors are also important in how social aspects were affected. So she's linking different arguments in a conclusion. You see this link between the environment and social factors. And she says that Polk's affected Polk's idea in Manifest Destiny. It led to new land being acquired and its ecology was being destroyed. This can be seen with extensive buffalo hunting that Parkman describes. And again, she's linking in sources. However, this source only looks at one part of the country and it's difficult to know if this happened in a larger number of regions, so she's evaluating it. We can see discrimination of the source. It says, in addition to this, it cannot provide a view of significance for these methods that the methods had on environment. So really she's judging the weight of the source in terms of making a final judgment. You can also see at the bottom she's footnoting correctly, so it's very clear for the examiner where her sources are from. There's each aspect of the political environmental significance had its consequences socially, so again she's linking factors. There's evidence that these factors had a significant impact on damaging Native American relations seen by Frelinghuysen's speeches, so again she's linking it to her sources, showing the short-term significance that beneficial relationships did not last. It's a very clear focus on the question. The Manifest Destiny helps spread ideas, and evidence for this can be seen in the Whitman accounts. In the short term, it seemed that these were welcomed, but soon Native Americans regret taking on these religions, again shown in Whitman's source. Although the source could have an agenda to recruit more missionaries, it provides an insight into a missionary's life. So again, she's using discrimination. She's trying to challenge the source that she's using, but she's using it to help make a judgment. The economic significance can be seen alongside development, and this is seen in the Nicole and McLaughlin sources. Again, sources in combination, and she's referencing. It's difficult to fully understand the short-term significance, but not all aspects can be measured in the short-term significance as the effects are present today. For example, the Mexico borders are further south, therefore the annexation of Texas would be considered long-term. Overall, the Oregon Trail had a huge impact on all aspects of America, politically, socially, environmentally, and economically, creating how America is today. So you can see very clearly that she is making a final judgment. Now finally looking at conclusion 4 then. Now both conclusions 3 and 4 were A-grade students who only dropped 2 marks for this piece of coursework, but in some respects the conclusions are very different. Looking specifically at this one, it says the short-term significance was extremely important and influential on the long-term development. So they are making these links between the short and long-term. It says today, as America consists of 50 states compared to the 22 states in 1820, showing geographical and long-term impact of the northward and westward expansion. As a result, America's economy improved, its power increased, and there were more resources in the short term, allowing more migration. So again, we can see this interconnection of all these different factors. The expansion west saw more free states join the Union, causing slavery to come into scrutiny. So it was a challenge. It says geographical changes are shown in the census records, so she's linking to the sources, which are important as large areas of previously deserted land were bought by Americans who wanted to fill their destiny in the West. You can see her analysis, her judgment. This suggests that American ideology contributed to the significance of the Oregon Trail and the northward expansion. Geographical significance led to economic developments, allowing business opportunities leading to de facto change. And more significantly, social impacts regarding the war in Mexico and the removal of the Indians and the annexation of Texas enhanced the short-term significance that led to de jure change. It's possible to argue that government's actions and legislations have the highest significance due to the reliable and informative sources, especially regarding the Indian Removal Act, which shows the discriminative and prejudicial nature of the government. This arguably led to conflicts and possibly war. And more significantly, social impact led to de jure change in the long term with the 14th Amendment, giving all American citizens except Native Americans the right to vote. Really, she's showing a very detailed knowledge of the period. She's got a lot of examples to back up what she's saying. It says, this implies that the Oregon Trail and northward expansion weren't significant socially, but in conclusion, the short-term significance was necessary for the long term to occur and for America to become more advanced politically, socially, geographically and economically. So it's very clear that we are seeing this final judgment. But look carefully at the language and the ranking skills that she's got. She uses terms like more significant, more significantly, most significantly. There's a real focus, this one of the highest significance. So she's making the final judgment, and it's very clear that she is ranking the factors.